So this video is my second week in specific training for the half marathon that's coming up on the 2nd of March. This week started off a little bit differently. Monday was a total rest day. So sometimes on a rest day I'll maybe use a cross train method such as an indoor bike or even an outdoor bike or something like swimming, but this day it was just a total rest. I've been building my mileage up a lot, so it's just a chance to give the body to recover and actually make the adaptations from training. And the only way to do that is to actually give it the rest that it needs. So in my marathon block last year I wasn't really taking any kind of rest days. This year I want to change that a bit, so my plan is to take one rest day kind of every 2 weeks or so, and that'll be throughout this half marathon block as well as the actual marathon block itself. So then moving on to the first sessions of the week. So on Tuesday I actually did a double session, so this means running twice a day. So I ran early in the morning and did just under kind of 16 kilometers in this run. This is all done at an easy pace, and then later in the day I did kind of just under 12k. So overall for the day I covered 27k. So there's a few reasons why I cover this in two runs. So the first being that time wise this day I didn't really have any time in the evening, so to cover the distance I wanted in the day it required two sessions at different times. Another one is that basically by doing two sessions it's kind of actually less fatiguing for the body because it has a chance to recover in between the two sessions, whereas if I did 27k in one go, it's a fairly long run, so the body is going to get tired at some point in that, and this way it's just kind of less fatiguing to the body, and you're still clocking up the same amount of mileage, so you're kind of getting that double benefit. So by doing this, if there's kind of less load on the body, it just allows you to kind of increase your mileage without basically fatiguing the body as much, which is what I'm trying to do at the moment. So I'm going to probably start to incorporate doubles in more than I did kind of in my previous block. I'm not the best at getting up early to do my runs, so that's kind of why I haven't used them in the past as much, but I have used doubles at different times, especially when I was training for like Ironman and stuff like that. It's something that my body is kind of well able for. I've already built the mileage up, and now it's just making it a bit easier on the body than what it has been in the past. So both of these sessions were done at an easy aerobic pace. I'm building up my overall fitness, and by doing 27k I'm getting a good bit of fitness build in the one day. And another feature I kind of want to add to these videos is I'm going to talk a little bit about the shoes that I'm wearing for each run. So for the morning run I wore the Asics Nova Blasts. My model is the 3, they're up to like the 5 now, but I'm using an older model. The reason that I use this shoe is I use it as an easy run shoe. It's kind of got good cushioning, so it's just a good one for kind of easier days. It can be kind of used for faster stuff, but I prefer for the slower stuff personally. In the afternoon when I did my second session I wore the Adidas Takumi Sen. I think my model is the 8, I think they're up to the 9 now. This is kind of a shoe you might use for maybe a 10k or so. I think it's marketed as a 5 to 10k shoe, so it is quite lightweight. Wouldn't kind of always use it on an easy run, but this one I just kind of wanted to mix up the shoes a bit. You don't really want to use the same pair of shoes twice in one day, I just kind of wanted to use these for a shorter run. It was going to be just over 10k, so I figured it's kind of built for that distance, so I thought I'd use them. So a little bit of a more firm shoe than the Nova Blast would be, so kind of less maybe cushioning and kind of energy return, but it's a good shoe, kind of nice and lightweight. So that's the two sets of shoes that I wore for these runs. So then moving on to Wednesday, and this is a track session. So I was doing 1k intervals, did 9 intervals, and the paces kind of range from around 3:29ish to around 3:26ish. So these are kind of bang on the paces that I was looking to hit, and I was kind of increasing the speed as I went along slightly. The last rep or two were a second or two slower, but that's kind of okay. I planned to do 8 reps, but I kind of felt good enough that I could do a 9th rep and still feel like I maybe had a final rep in me, so that's kind of a good indication of when to stop, is when you think you maybe only have 1 rep left. So got the 9th rep in just for that kind of extra little bit of speed work. So this is a good session overall, and just trying to build the speed up a bit. So the shoes that I wore in this session were the Nike Zoom Fly 6. So basically this is a shoe that it's kind of a good training shoe. It does have a plate inside, but it's not kind of as good as what would be in maybe the Alpha Flies and stuff like that as a shoe. A little bit heavier and stuff. but it's a good shoe to use for this sort of a session. So it's speed work. The plate will just help with kind of energy return and feeling less fatigued to allow you to go for the next day. But I'm not using like a super shoe which is going to kind of enhance my performance in this training session, because when I go into the actual event itself then and I'm wearing the super shoe, it's basically going to make the kind of race pace feel a bit easier by having used kind of lesser shoes in training. So that's the reason behind using the Zoom Fly 6 for this one. So then moving on to Thursday, and again this was a double session day. So in the morning I did a 16-kilometer run, again at just an easy aerobic pace, building up my overall fitness. I did this run in the Asics Nova Blast trees as well. So yeah, once again just sort of building up the fitness. Also kind of after a track session day, this easy run will sort of get the blood flowing in the legs, just helps with recovery. Active recovery is kind of better for maybe kind of DOMs than just sitting around and doing nothing would be. So yeah, getting the blood flowing is always good as a way of recovering straight after like a tough session, like a track session the day before. Then in the afternoon I did a steady session, so this is kind of at a pretty much like a set pace, and you're trying to maintain that pace, but you don't want it to be kind of a tempo pace where it's kind of around race pace, so you want it to be a little bit slower than that. So this was a steady effort at around 20 seconds slower than my marathon pace. It was 12-kilometer run, so I was aiming to run this around kind of between 4:05 and 4:10 per kilometer. The average came out as 4:09. So this is, again, it is building up that base fitness, but it's just also getting the body kind of used to maybe slightly tougher efforts than just doing easy runs the whole time. Did this in the Adidas Boston 12, so this is a really good shoe, especially when you're trying to pick up the paces a bit. You could use it for easy days as well, but yeah, for me this is what I would kind of use on maybe a long run, a progression run, or something like this where it's a steady run where I'm trying to hit a relatively fast pace, not a max out effort, but yeah, still a fairly fast pace. So yeah, really big fan of the Adidas Boston 12s. So then moving on to the Friday, and I tend to try to use Friday as a speed day. So in this session, usually I kind of do it on the track, but I kind of didn't have time to get out to the track this day, so did it out on the roads. And the session itself was, I kind of did 2.5-kilometer warm up and then 3 by 3 kilometers at around my kind of half marathon goal pace at the moment, which in each rep I got 3:40, 3:37 and 3:40 per kilometer averages. So it's quite good. It's kind of less than 11 minutes running per rep, but it's kind of a good stimulus. Some people will do their reps by time rather than kilometers, and that's more probably to, I suppose, if you're at the end of a rep and you're looking at your average pace, and you're nearly at your third kilometer, you might just speed up a bit just to kind of hit whatever your average pace goal is. So I try not to do that. I try to keep the pace kind of maintained through the whole time, whereas if you're just doing it by time, you just run until you stop and focus a little bit less on pace. But yeah, I do mine by kilometers, just in my head I find it a bit easier to kind of do it that way, but both ways work. So this session, just building up the body's ability to kind of maintain speed for longer distances. Did this one in the Nike Zoom Fly 6 again, so same reasons as I used on the track session. It's a good shoe. It's got a plate for energy return. It's one that's kind of built for running faster and for basically training your speed. So it's always a good shoe to use. Plenty of cushioning as well, and it's just a nice lightweight and comfortable shoe. So yeah, this session overall pretty good, and we're just building up that speed, and then the rest of the day is nice and easy. So this week I was building up my mileage, so I'd kind of gone from doing kind of 90 kilometers a week to my previous week before this one was 113, and I wanted to increase that but not by too much. So I was already on around kind of 83 kilometers for the week after Friday, so I decided to just do a 10-kilometer recovery session on a Saturday. So this is again just done at a nice easy pace, but you kind of want to probably keep this maybe kind of less than an hour if you're just doing it purely for recovery. It's just get the blood flowing, kind of get the legs ready and recovered for maybe harder or longer days. So yeah, just kept this one fairly short, 10 kilometers, nothing too kind of strenuous here. I did this one in the Nike Invincibles 3, so they're kind of a very well cushioned shoe, made for kind of easy and recovery days. So that's kind of why I used that shoe for this. Kind of less load on the body, just with the amount of cushioning on that shoe. If you if you see the picture I'll put up of it, you'll just see the amount of foam kind of on the bottom. So yeah, that's a really good shoe for kind of any easy day, or any easy running overall. So then move on to Sunday, and the reason I only wanted to do about 10 kilometers the day before was that this was my long run for the week. So my goal for this one was to hit 30 kilometers at a nice, easy, steady pace, and therefore I didn't want to kind of add too much mileage in this week, just kind of coming back from injury and stuff. So this was the first time hitting kind of over 120 kilometers since like probably November last year. So yeah, basically didn't want to overdo it with the miles on the Saturday, and get ready for the miles on the Sunday. So yeah, this is a 30 kilometer run. Average pace is 4:41 per kilometer. So yeah, it's quite a long and intense run. On top of that, so I'd kind of been out on the night before on the Saturday, and I wasn't feeling the best of shape on the Sunday morning. Couldn't really eat, so I actually had no idea how this session was going to go. I literally only had like a slice and a half of toast beforehand. It's all I could get down, so I had a few gels with me, but I wasn't sure how this run was going to go, but I was just determined to get out and do it. So it did go quite well in the end. The gels went down, no problems. Actually felt better running than I did just kind of sitting around. So this is actually quite a good one, and I was really glad I did it, and sort of didn't just take the excuse of I've been out the night before and not done it. So you might wonder why I'm kind of doing 30 kilometers if the goal race is a half marathon. So if you can build up your endurance to kind of run further than you actually need to run, it'll then kind of make it easier to run at the faster paces that you're going to run for those long distances. So you want to build up maybe your easy runs, basically, as long as you can do them. 2 to 3 hours is kind of as long as you maybe want to run in one go. But yeah, so that's the reason I'm doing 30 kilometers for a 21 kilometer race. It's just to build up the overall fitness, which is going to make the speed work just a lot easier on the body. These runs are also a chance to practice your kind of gel strategy. So for half marathon I'll maybe take one gel, but that's kind of about it, whereas for marathon I'll take more. But for this long run I took 3 gels. So I think I took the first one after about an hour, the second one about 25 to 30 minutes later, and again the next one about 25 to 30 minutes later. And this is something that I'll try to do during marathon. Every 25-30 minutes be taking in these gels. So it's just something to practice kind of in these easier runs, and get the stomach used to digesting those gels as you run. So this run was also in the Adidas Boston 12s that I'd used on my steady run on the Thursday. So again, just a good shoe for kind of even longer distances, or if you're trying to incorporate kind of any, maybe going a bit faster than you might usually go on your easy runs. It's a good shoe to wear. So a bit like the other Adidas shoes I mentioned earlier, the Takumi Sens, it's a bit more of a firm shoe than maybe the Nike Invincibles or the Nova Blast that I'm used to using. But the reason I have a rotation is that it kind of puts different efforts on different muscles, and helps build up those muscles and the strength in them by using different shoes. So it's not something that everybody needs to have, this big shoe rotation that I have, but it's just something that I kind of, if I see a shoe on sale, I like to buy it pretty much. So I have a big collection, so I might as well use them all. So anyway, at the end of the week in total, that's kind of just over 123 kilometers covered for the week. The majority of that is easy running. There's 2 speed sessions in there, there's 1 steady session, and the long run was done totally easy. So in future weeks I might build some half marathon pace into the long run, but for the purpose of this video, the run that I was doing was just purely easy aerobic, just to build up my overall fitness, which is then going to help with the speed work in future weeks. So if you did enjoy the video, thanks for watching. Give me a like and a subscription. You'll see my future training for this half marathon, and then for the Geneva Marathon coming up in May. So yeah, thank you for watching.